And so that was the third time I committed murder and got away with it.
Yeah. Man, that's so much better than your first two.
Right?
Right. First two were just straight up boring regular murder.
Yeah, just boring regular murder.
Off to a great start. Great start.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah. Man, that's so much better than your first two.
Oh.
Right.
I got it.
Just straight up boring.
There we go. Whoo! I figured out the technology, guys.
Nice.
Yay.
So you can hear just what that delay is. Anyway, hey, Brandon Ayton from Wet Ink Games here, and here with my partner in crime. Actually, it's different on YouTube, but Matthew Orr, wave.
Hi.
Charlie Ferguson Avery, and Doug Lewandowski. All right. So, yeah, we're here just kind of watching the countdown for Into the Weird and Wild, and just doing a little bit of a hangout Q&A session. If there's anyone who hops in to our chat and wants to ask questions or anything like that. But we're pretty much just going to be talking about Into the Weird and Wild and our general nerdiness, and maybe some conventions and stuff that we have coming up. We might have people coming in later. Doug's going to be hopping out in probably about 15 minutes, but so we want to make sure we can talk to Doug while he's here and everything. But other than that, here we are. So this isn't going to be anything super formal, but first and foremost, I do want to give Charlie an opportunity to introduce himself and his art, because this project would not be going on at all without just the fantastic craziness that is Into the Weird and Wild. So go ahead, Charlie.
Well, honestly, I've been kind of racking my brain of like what to say about this book, because as it's every time during when the first Kickstarter happened, I was doing shipping, and whenever I end up meeting people and talking about Into the Weird and Wild, I never know exactly what to say. And the more I think about it, the more I realize it was a very deeply personal project. The more and more I thought about it. That being said, I love pretty much almost all the art. Some of them I could have done a little better, but most of it I kind of want to leave untouched, as sort of like, it's, like I said, weirdly enough, it's kind of like where I was at life at that time when I was making it. It's not just a product, like it's for lack of a better term, a thing.
Yeah,
and
I like an artifact of that time of your life, right?
Yes, and then on top of that, it was my sophomore work. The only other book I had published before that was World War Cult, which, we turned to Never Going Home. We've talked about that, all that jazz. But I just knocked something over on the desk. Yeah, that was the first role-playing game book I ever made. Did everything myself, and people loved it, which was very weird, because to me it was just going to be oh well, I could definitely use the money from this to help pay off my student loans. And then by the time the book was done, I got to pay off my student loans.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, that was a very big deal. It still doesn't feel like I've paid them off, because it's always just like that stress is lingering in the back of the brain. But yeah, I had no idea it was going to be as well received as it was. And now, of course, there's a little bit of pressure to make sure everything I do from now on is not just up to the standards of that book, but above and beyond it. Because now I'm not just trying to improve on my work, which I'm already trying to do that. I am, trying to improve on everything that has been done beforehand, and make stuff that is comparable to everything else, the people I am looking up to.
Yeah.
Of course, there's Necrotic Gnome is coming out with Dolmenwood. Pretty much everything Skirples makes, now that I think about it. And these are just the names I know off the top of my head in the OSR scene. but yeah, I've met all these wonderful people through the book, and I want to make sure that like I can make something that I am proud of, is better than what I've made before, and is something that will, for lack of a term, impress them. And something that like they would be interested in, and something that, you know, gets me invited back to Packs and Plugs so I can hang out with them again. But
well, to that point, like, so Doug, you, I mean, you've been a designer for a while, just, been involved in some, little things like, I don't know, kids on bikes.
yeah, just that little thing. Just that little tiny little thing.
But so Doug,
it is short. It's like 60, 70 pages. Yeah.
You know what I meant, right?
So, when it comes to from a design standpoint, I mean, like I totally understand kind of where Charlie is coming from, wanting to always not only do better and make something that you are proud of, but also something that people that you like and respect in the industry would have interest in. Do you ever have experiences like that as well from your design experience?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So my projects are like sort of split into 3 parts, right? Like, so I have the, like, sort of like what I did for Into the Weird and Wild, or what I'm working on with the adventure. And so like doing content for other people's stuff and getting to like play around in their worlds, which is really cool. And then I have, what's that?
We like when you do it.
Hey, anytime you want me to. And then there's like the really big stuff, like Kids on Bikes, Teens in Space, things like that. And that stuff is like really high pressure, right? Because that's, once we hit print, that's it. Like, that's gonna be what it's gonna be. And then in the middle, there's like the smaller Kickstarters that I do, right? And those have, I think, actually been really good to like get ideas unstuck out of there that aren't going to get turned into a big thing, just that I want to put out in the world, but like in a very low pressure way. Like, if something doesn't deliver exactly the experience I want it to, people paid $5 for it, and so that's okay. Or it lets me do stuff like Below, that was just like a really personal deep dive into like, hey, let's make my seasonal depression into a metaphor. That'll be fun.
Yeah. But you get to stretch your legs, right? And
yeah, exactly.
Cool.
In like a very low pressure way. And try out some stuff that I probably wouldn't bring to the table or put out into the world without, that other stuff. What about as a publisher? Like, where do you fall in terms of that, like taking a risk and like that? What anxiety do you feel about products?
Ooh, Matt, do you want to take that? Do you want to dive into
Brandon
that?
has so much anxiety about products, he doesn't even want to answer the question. He's trying to get me to answer it instead.
I mean,
respect.
You're not wrong.
Right. I mean, I'd like to say that I don't have any anxiety about products, right? Because like, especially if you're crowdfunding, like you put them out there, and if people don't like them, then you don't bother to make them. Like if people like them, then when you get the anxiety about I get more anxiety after the fact, right? When it's like, and I'm not complaining to all the people who are watching this and like possible backers of this campaign and other campaigns that we've done. I'm not complaining at all, but it is a problem when your Kickstarter is extremely successful, because then you got to actually do all the stuff that you promised, which sometimes can get like, oh man, we've got a lot to do now. So like choosing products and like putting them out there, at this point, I feel like and I think Brandon would say the same, like, it's like, oh, this is great. We should put this out. Like, there's a market for this, like whatever that is. Like there's a big market for it. There's a small market for it. There's a niche market for it. Like, not everyone's going to want Wishing Sigil as a game, but like it was a successful campaign because there's people that wanted that product, or, what's the one you did, Charlie, with the comics? That was the Appalachian Gothic, like.
Oh
know,
yeah,
I mean-
we crawled across the finish line with that one. But
Right.
but to be fair, like it was like we kept our expectations low for that, and it was kind of more of like it was more of an excuse to do something with that group of friends. But in that respect, it was very neat. It was very niche. I did have a lot of fun with it, and I really want to get back into comics.
They're great comics. I mean, I was a backer and I enjoy them. I have them right there in that group right there. But the
so just to finish my thought, just that the anxiety for me definitely comes after the fact, like, you know, because putting it out for crowdfunding is sort of like the trial period, and then you find out whether or not your guess at the beginning was right and whether or not anyone agrees that this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, again, not the problem to all the viewers, the delightful challenge of like being the publisher that's like, now we must deliver on the promise of a Kickstarter that's 1,000%. Like that's a new thing for us as a publisher of games. We've never reached 1,000% before. So wow. And
I would answer this question. Hold on. My daughter says she has a crystal from her dress, her Elsa dress, stuck in her ear. So hold on 1 minute. I need to go parent real quick. Okay. And I will answer this question when I get back. Talk amongst yourselves.
Godspeed, my friend.
Live radio.
Oh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, it reached over 1,000%.
Yeah, that's
you
great.
didn't know that? You haven't been watching it?
I haven't been watching it. It scares me. I don't even have to do the shipping for it. I just like, but it's I mean,
this is like the sausage. This is the real sausage behind like Kickstarting. Like, if you get 100% of your, in this case, we asked for 10,000. You get 100%, 10,000. Like that's going to be at a book of this level, you know, a few hundred copies at most.
Mhm.
You know, you can do that in your basement. Like we've got like, I don't know. I don't have it pulled up right now. Are you looking at the campaign right now, Doug?
I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we've gotten, this is what I mean about the challenges and the anxiety that comes afterwards. Like we're looking at like partnering with a fulfillment service at this point, because this is too many books to put in anyone's basement.
Yeah, because now you're at 1,100%.
There you go. There you go.
All right. So hey, I got it out of her ear. Yay!
Hey.
Successful dadding.
Yeah. So to Matt's point, like I think some of the anxiety does, like, for me, there's obviously a little bit of anxiety whenever you hit launch on a Kickstarter. But I think it's that just when things become successful, sometimes more successful than you expect. And I know there was we've told the story a couple times when we went to Gen Con in 2019 with Never Going Home, because we had told Charlie, like, this is going to release at Gen Con. Like we actually had some boxes delivered to the hotel because it was coming from the printer, like hot off the presses. And you know, on Thursday, on VIP Thursday, we had people come up to the table and were like, hey, this is the game that everyone's talking about. And we're like, we did not bring enough for everyone to be talking about it.
Please stop talking about it. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and so we're like, so there is that level of anxiety there, because like, sure, you have all of these people who back the Kickstarter, not only because they believe in your product and they want it to succeed and they want to own it, but they also want it out there in the world. And especially with this one, we talked to Charlie about like, hey, we love the book. We backed it initially, and we would love for more people to get it and put it into distribution and stuff like that. So the anxiety for me kind of comes from that thing of like, okay, so yeah, we have a bunch of people who want this book. We can kind of test the waters and say, supposedly other people will want this book.
Mhm.
So when you put it into distribution and you work with other distribution outlets to get it into retail stores, and you have retail backers, you want it to succeed, so you don't have pallets of books just sitting in a warehouse.
Right.
So it's that risk, like, let's see where we go.
Yeah, I admit, like, I was very hesitant to like do it. Like 2 years ago, I was very hesitant. It's like, because you guys had contacted me in good faith, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to re-release it, because like that's there's another. First, I didn't want to release it just because it was like, well, this is my thing. I'm just gonna just kind of sit on it, like, just I don't really want to do anything with it right now. Like, and like eventually got to the point where it was like I'm getting messages on Twitter, which, like, first off, like, thank you for being interested, anybody listening, and like all that. But like it was like there was pressure to, it's like, oh shit, like I need to make more books, and it's like, but I don't want to ship them, and then it got extra complicated because, and here's the full story. I thought I lost the files for.
We'll have to talk about that, because you mentioned that the other day.
Yeah. So I don't know if I want to go into that right now, but like, there was a, yeah. So I had two backups. Well, I thought I only had two backups. I had my little MacBook thing that sat on the desk. That thing bricked. But that was okay, because before that happened, I had put over a full backup on my MacBook. And that thing was like still technically alive, but it had the files in it. So it was like, at least that's a spot for it. And then one day, I don't know, the pipe in my toilet burst. Just the water line, so not the bad line. Flooded the bathroom, drained into the living room, destroyed a couple of bookshelves, and soaked my computer to the point where, like, if you lifted it up, you could just watch water dribble out of the corner. Insurance covered everything, and then, like, I have a wonderful partner, and we, like, fixed up the roof ourselves, or not roof, ceiling. But, like, when that happened, there was this weird kind of zenful moment where I was like, there will be no more books. It is gone, and I will never have to worry about it again. And like then at that point, I got very dodgy about like questions regarding like, hey, do you want to do a re-release of the book? And I was like, I'm just like, not answering that. Like,
wrong number.
Yeah, but it was because it was like there's no way I can redo that, and like it was also, part of it was like kind of painful. Of like, one, it was like, I was kind of glad it's like, I have validation that I don't have to re-release it, but it was also sad. It's like, man, that's it. Like, just the copies that are there. But then turns out I had a third backup that I had completely forgotten about on a hard drive. And one day I'm just like digging through the closet, and I find it, and I was like, oh, well, the files might be on here. But I don't have a Mac anymore. And then I just like something out of a movie. I just like turn and look at my partner just like there on the computer, her MacBook, and I was like, hey, can I borrow that for like, I don't know, like 10 minutes, just 10 minutes. He's like, yeah, of course you can. And I was like, okay, because I think I found like all the files for the book. It's like, what do you need all the files? It's like, oh yeah, my laptop got got soaked. Like, yeah. Well, all the files for the book were on that. Just like, what do you mean all the files for the book were on that? Like, and so like, long story short, I found a backup of it that had about 80% of the art and 90% of the art, about the book at about 80% pre-edits.
Right.
So like that's what you're all getting is a reworked version of from 80% onward, and we did some edits. There's some new art, but yeah, like for a while I thought like there's not going to be another book.
Well, we do actually have some additional questions in the chat. So first and foremost, Delirium asked, is there going to be any bonus loot or anything for reaching 1,100 or $100,000 or anything like that? So,
guys, sorry to interrupt. I have to run.
Okay. See you, Doug.
Hey, thanks for joining.
Absolutely, good to see you guys.
Yeah.
All right. As we've said, a couple times in in various avenues. We wanted to make sure we can deliver this as quickly as possible. So one of the things that we may talk about is seeing if there's maybe an enhancement or something that we could do to in the printing process or something like that. But for the most part, I don't anticipate there being anything beyond what we've already unlocked. Maybe actually, I'm sorry, I am a liar, because one of our writers actually told me today that he volunteered to take the Grim Harvest adventure that everyone is getting, and which is a introductory adventure to into the Weird and Wild, and he is going to make it for he's going to add levels like 2 through 4, 2 through 5 or something. He's going to expand it a little bit more after the fact and that will be a free PDF for everyone. It's not going to be, we don't anticipate it being, unless for whatever reason he just like craps out a bunch of words this weekend. I don't know, but we don't anticipate it being a something that would be in the actual printed document with the Grim Harvest adventure. But he volunteered to do it. He said this was something really cool, and he may be joining us later. His name's Corey Capps. He worked on stuff for Corey. He worked on stuff for Never Going Home. He wrote one of our favorite adventures, my favorite adventures, and so for Never Going Home, and there's so many to like. Anyway, but he volunteered to do that, which is awesome of him.
The adventure,
but no,
it's like choosing between your children.
That's
right?
like,
it can't be done.
Yeah, it can't be done. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone gets Buicks.
Yeah.
No.
So there are 2 more questions. First off, Ben Spencer. Yes, there are 2 more books planned. Not Desert Doe.
For Charlie, but for those who may not actually see the chat,
right.
We in the campaign page we mention hardback being the format for products going forward. Anything else planned in this vein? Charlie, it's off to you.
So we here at Feral Indie Studios, that's me, Alex, and Jeannie now. When we were talking about doing a couple more books, the next book we had planned, it was literally a toss-up between either a city book or a haunted coastline. And basically we just kind of we sort of talked it over, but it ended up being just like a coin flip of all right, well, let's do the city book. So the next book is going to be called This City Eats People. I guess I can start saying that now.
You sure can.
And as for when it's slated for release, we're hoping we can get it done by the end of this year. And I mean, I'm already working on layout for it. To be fair, the way we work on it is we work writing, layout, and art all at the same time. It just works out easier for us that way. So it's not going to be.
It looks gorgeous when you do it that way.
Yes. So that's the next book, and it is very much in the same vein of The Weird and Wild, although because it's a city, completely different problems, completely different completely different terrors, for lack of a better term, and a completely different feeling. So I'll be shilling that on Twitter for the next couple of months, so I won't bore you with that. But yes, 2 more books in the same vein as Into the Weird and Wild.
Yep. And the cool thing is because we're printing this in that in the same format, the same size format, a 6x9 as the original Into the Weird and Wild. We're going to keep that style through everything. So you put them on your shelf, they look great together. And that's one of the things that when we first talked to Charlie about reprinting and re-releasing this, and are there other things that along this line that we could help with and we could help put into distribution and things like that. he said, yeah, we have these two ideas and they were awesome. So we were like, let's contract for that. And it was awesome. It was pretty thrilling to see. And knowing that you all are as excited about this product, I'm sure, the other deliverables are going to look just as awesome.
Looks like we have another question from Mooney.
Oh, Mooney. Yeah, Mooney's on our Discord. Hey, by the way, if you haven't checked out the wedding Discord, I always end up accidentally closing it because it pings. Matt answers a lot of the questions on our Discord. We have a pretty good community there. Anyway, Mooney asks, if we were to purchase a PDF, could we print a private copy? That's for personal use, not necessarily for any kind of other use. We've talked about it before. I don't have a problem with it, Matt. Do you have a problem with it?
I mean,
For personal
I'd rather
use?
him buy a copy, but hey, budgets are tight. If it costs, it's cheaper to print it out for your printer.
Yeah,
I can't stop you. It's you have the digital files. You can do it. It'll look nicer as a purchased book, but
the alternative is that printer ink costs $7 million now. I remember last time I went to the store to buy printer ink, I was like, I'm just gonna carve it in blood.
You've got to soak those like oak galls in water for a year and then make your own ink. That's how they.
That's what I should do. Just I need to go into the Weird and Wild and harvest black walnuts.
I feel like I do have something in there about black walnuts. Oh, also my input on it, because technically the book was lost for a while, and I am very much in, and now I say this in good faith. I am very much under the thought and school of free information. If it's out of print, it's free game and all that. I would prefer, much in the same way, it's like I prefer if you bought a copy, but times is tough. And if it's just for personal use, like of course print it. Like I'm not gonna. I mean, they're all out of print. I will say that, but I do have a couple of bootleg books. And it's not like I'm not selling them, not doing anything like that, but are for personal use. And so I feel fine with that. I'm not like Wizards of the Coast.
I'll check my shelf. I don't think I have any, but.
I've got the first bootleg I ever made was actually just the chainmail rules, just because I didn't like seeing it as a PDF, so I printed that out as a zine. I started getting into doing bootleg books, mostly just like super old. God, I shouldn't even say this out loud, but we'll just say like some old products of the role playing variety. Just because I do not like looking at them as PDF, and it's just for personal use. I'm not gonna hawk them later. And on top of that, it's not like I would be able to, because it's oh yeah, this is clearly printed on printer paper and then bound with rope. So
bound with
twine, but it's
Well, I think that's I prefer dead tree format. I mean, I got books everywhere over here. Yeah, it's just I just like holding it. But there always comes there's only so much space. There's only so much space before your books start pouring out into other places. And yeah, I think from my perspective, we'd always prefer someone buys a book and not necessarily pirate. If you buy the PDF, use it for personal use. That's fine. We're not going to stop you. Yeah. Now, we did get another question from Delirium. He's not related to this book, but he says, "What's your guys' personal favorite non-WotC published book, i.e. Humblewood or Grim Hollow or something like that?" That's a really good question. I mean, you mentioned Humblewood, and I have Humblewood right here. Humblewood's great. It's easily within arm's reach. It's accessible. But my favorite non-WotC don't get me wrong. I have a lot of friends who have written for Wizards of the Coast. They've done various things, but I don't think any Wizards of the Coast book even cracks my top 10. So it's a great question. Wizards has done some great stuff for the industry, but it's not my top 10. I will say, from a production standpoint, because we've used this in internal discussions between Matt and I for various things, I think my personal favorite book is the Iron Kingdom's Core Rules from Privateer Press. Not the old stuff. Even the old stuff from 3.5 was really, really cool. The Witchfire trilogy that was collected was pretty great. But when they did the Iron Kingdoms RPG, they did their own rule set. We often joke that it's man, this book is overproduced because it's so pretty. But I think for that is a non-Wizards product, and it's gorgeous. It's a good book. Just the amount of fiction in it, the rules, the layout, the design. It hits a lot of buttons for me.
I don't know if he was in charge of how much, because actually, I'm not sure if he was art director at the time, but I know Chris Barassa was either art director doing art for that book at that time, and he would later go on to work on Darkest Dungeon. So if you want to know something about style and look, they had a pretty good team.
Right.
I'm trying to think of. Well, first, Matt, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I'm multitasking here, so I've been making sure I wasn't on mute. I'm leaning over here to look at my shelf, and I don't know. Yeah, that the Core Rules of the Iron Kingdoms RPG. That's a great looking book, and one that because there's so many variables, right? You've got to use the book, you've got to enjoy reading the book, you've got to is it a good product in your hand? Does it have content that inspires you or whatever? That's a good choice. I mean, this is Into the Weird and Wild. That's a book that I enjoyed reading, and it looks beautiful, and we actually used it in a game session. So it's pretty high on the list, Charlie. It's pretty high on the list. I also really into they're not good, but I really like them. I want to like them more than they're worth it. But there's these old books, and I started collecting them, and they weren't collector's items when I started collecting them. So the first couple I got for $5, but now I guess the secret's out, and they're $100 now to buy one.
What?
It's a Lord of the Rings choose your own adventure RPG series.
Oh.
So it's Lord of the Rings stuff. So there's the Treason at Isengard, there's the Search for the Palantir, there's the Murder in Mirkwood, and I've got a couple of them. And they're archaic 80s RPG stuff, but it's it's choose your own adventure stuff, which I grew up on. Choose your own adventures, or I guess choose your own. It's like Kleenex, right? Choose your own adventure is copyright, but it's the multiple path adventure stories type things. Except it's a role playing game, so you don't choose whether or not you encounter the orc. You roll stealth, and you either do it there's they're cool because they're set up it's about that ease of use and that tactile quality that I was talking about before. There's the random numbers are in the spine of the book, so you're you can just kind of flip the page and then turn to you're reading the paragraph or whatever, and it's roll, do your stealth or whatever. So you've got your character sheet, and then you turn to a random page and you look at the number, and it okay, I rolled 7 plus my stealth stat is 4, so I gotta, and it'll tell you if you got 11 or higher, turn to this page. If you got less than 11, turn to this page. If you did really badly, turn to this page.
There's a whole chunk of books that were like that. Danny Delisle was talking to us about that about the other day.
romance ones.
Yeah, about like the Victorian romance ones. Yeah.
And I know there was a lot from that era that were done. I mean, the Lone Wolf books and all of that stuff. Like there's a lot of them. But I've got a couple. So they're vintage, so that adds an appeal. They're like Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorite. Not the movies are fine, but the books I'm really into. And so having these like books that kind of sit on my shelf in between the RPGs and my collection of Tolkien books, like they're there in that like special in between space. So I really like those. They're like I said, they're not exactly good games, but I like the idea of them and I'm inspired by them. And like, yeah, maybe in the future that's a project for Wedding Games. Make our own multiple path adventure books.
So
like, not to like, I mean, not to shoot it in the leg, but it's like, God, it would almost be easier to just do it for like a text video game at that point. Like,
well, there was one that came out on Kickstarter just a few months ago, and it was in the same vein as Choose Your Own Adventure, like solo adventure book, just huge, like 480-page book. And because I was, I'm a child of that era, and I loved Lone Wolf and everything, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna back this. Like, it just, I loved everything they were doing with it. I don't even remember the name off the top of my head. I know the one I want to say, and I know it's wrong, so I'm not going to. But I will say one thing about that, and I don't know if it was trying to get to the root of this, a non-WotC product. And Delirium cited Humblewood, and Humblewood is fantastic. If you haven't checked out Humblewood, it is amazing. The production quality is great. The ideas, the art is just beautiful. Humblewood is an all-around fantastic product. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But some of the other stuff, you can see it right here behind me. There's green book right here. It's Neverland. And that is
this little tiny thread.
This little tiny sliver of green right here on my shelf. It's called Neverland, and it's a 5e product that's using the Open Gaming license that is talking about Peter Pan and Neverland, and it's gorgeous. It is a gorgeous book. It's just from the size. I mean, it's not the 8.5 by 11 standard like WotC book that you would expect. It's a slightly smaller. It just feels good in the hand. The art is really cool. The way it's laid out is neat. It goes into a lot of the stuff from Neverland. It's just a cool product, and you're like, and like you read it and like, yeah, I want to play a Lost Boy. This is awesome. So that I think there's a lot of I do respect the fact that the Open Gaming license has allowed some really cool things to hit the market. Hey Charlie, we have a question for you from Kyle Osterberg. Kyle Osterberg is one of our friends and supporters. He's a huge supporter of Never Going Home, and he actually the remember the shell casing that I showed you the other day, Charlie? The World War I shell casing. Yeah, Kyle found that in a thrift shop in St. Louis and gave it to me. It's awesome. Yeah, and it's like it's etched and carved with art about Verdun, and it's gorgeous. It's cool. But Kyle asked, Charlie, after the success of Never Going Home, have you been approached to do art for any other gaming publishers?
No one. I'll put it this way: like WotC hasn't talked to me, and I'm waiting for one of their checks to come through. But no, I have been approached by a couple of people, but because of like what my work looks like, it's much more kind of like in the indie scene. So it's less of like a, shall we say, like a company with like the suits and everything approaching me, and kind of more like somebody I bump into at a convention or on Twitter, or I just like kind of know. And that's honestly, I kind of prefer to like work that way, where it's in part because it's like, okay, I have a day job, so like the bills are mostly covered. I don't like, this is supplemental income, but it is also more like I get to, thankfully, like this gets to be a passion thing.
Right.
And so because of that, like when I do get approached by someone maybe I don't know that well, I tend to turn it down sometimes. I'm not going to turn down work all the time, obviously, but it's not just about the money to me. It's also like if I have to like it, and have the time, and make sure that I'm not working on another project at the same time, or I have to be able to like make sure I can pull it off, or like. But it is much more of like right now I am working on a project. Well, first off, City Book. I'm currently also making some art that I'll be putting up on my itch page for basically like general consumption. Also for somebody I know on Twitter who's making a game about a war game using cards, and I want to make some art for that on the sly. But then also one big project working on is called Gob, and that I'm working on with okay, so basically a bunch of people I'm very good friends with. Most of them I only know their Discord and Twitter handles.
Right.
But yeah, we're working on that, and that's like a passion project from like bottom to top, and I am having a blast working on that. And so no, I don't necessarily get approached by companies, but I get approached by people, and I also get approached by friends, and it's very fun working that way.
It's
that being said, if you know somebody at Wizard of the Coast, put them my way. So
and I guess from an artist standpoint, I guess that has to feel really good, where you can, I mean, I have a day job, and this is, we want to make this bigger than it is, and always improve. But like, I think the desire to work with people that love and respect, I think is good. The relationships that we've built from doing Never Going Home, and having various writers on that, doing Zhangshi with Banana Chan and Senfeng Lim and Matthias Bonici, like just we've made some really great connections, and just knowing Matt's the convention coordinator for the IGDN. We're members of IGDN. It's just the indie game scene it's a lot smaller than you think it is. And and Charlie, you're talking about itch, like I'm very rarely over there unless I'm looking at your stuff, and so it's it's definitely a smaller circle, but it's still encompassed in that. And yeah, like, people know each other. If someone's being a jerk, then people know about it, and if a company doesn't pay, people know about it, and it's just it's a very mostly tightly connected community. So yeah. So Kyle, I'm sure that answered that, and we can definitely talk about that more if you want. Delirium says, I'm hoping Heckna from Hit Point Press is as good or better than Humblewood. It took a big chunk out of my wallet when it appeared. All right. I don't know Heckna. I definitely want to check it out. I always like, poking around. So yeah, I've not heard of that.
Yeah, it's the Carnival Horror setting for 5e.
Carnival Horrors? All right.
Yes. I remember seeing advertisements for it. I'm looking at the Kickstarter page now.
Ooh. Speaking of Kickstarter, we haven't looked at the Kickstarter page in a while. Let's look at.
We are right now at 115,168, and we have 14 minutes to go.
14 minutes.
Oh, I remember Heckna. Okay. Yeah. I remember this cover image. Okay. Oh, man. I remember when you were doing the Wedding Wednesday, or the video series. We talked to Crystal Mauser briefly about a Carnival Assassins. Or was it Crystal? or am I crossing streams?
Oh,
It was Charlie.
It happened multiple. I talked about it with Charlie at Wedding Games or on the Wedding Wednesdays, but I had also talked to Crystal Mazur about it at Gen Con in 2019.
Oh, okay.
I saw
So I was
her there.
crossing streams.
So like it's both and. It's both and.
Both
It's such a
and.
good idea.
Great minds think alike.
Oh my gosh, this image of this clown with the caption that says "Got your nose," and it's this clown, and it's got the big red nose. It's a bug. Oh, I didn't see that on the Heckno page. Oh wow, that is pretty great art. Oh man, gosh, let me see if I can do this real quick. Please don't break. Please don't break.
Oh no, you're gonna do.
You see this?
Crazy?
Oh God. Jesus.
Right? Like, oh man. Like, okay, good job, Hector.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, well, we got 2 questions. So.
All right, let's see. So Ben, what is the license, by the way? I do a lot of solo gaming and might want to play around with putting together a solo resource for Into the Weird and Wild. Well,
Technically it's OGL, so like it's I mean, if you make a solo hack for it, like go ahead. I mean, the thing is, it doesn't really have. I mean, it's not a system per se. So like, I mean, if you solo hack for it, that's technically your own thing. Like, because we're aesthetic. Like it's got some mechanical stuff. It doesn't have like an overarching like system within it.
right.
It's kind of like
You'd almost
systems to tack on to a main system.
you'd almost partner it with a system that was already a solo adventure thing, and just you'd be encountering the creatures of the weird and wild.
So I think Ben,
if you wanted to do that,
ultimately,
right?
yeah, it is. It is part of the OGL. If you would want to specifically make it into the Weird and Wild, like just shoot an email to wetinkgames@gmail.com and we'll give you the information that you need. Just to make sure, like, hey, we can put this logo on the thing. It's kind of like what Morkborg does. Morkborg is open, and like they have all kinds of stuff. Like I saw one that went up today or earlier in the week about like it's all about fishing. It's called like Fiskborg.
Yep.
And I was like, gosh, this is hilarious. It's all about just like the craziness of fishing in the Morkborg universe. But again, like if you wanted to do something along those lines for Into the Weird and Wild, like we want to encourage that, but we want to make sure that you're doing it, the right way and tying it to the property. And but again, we're not gonna like
good faith. It's good. It's a good faith.
It's good faith. What Charlie says. Yeah, you're right. All right. Let's see. Delirium. Back onto the topic of the book. From what I've seen, most, if not all, the monsters have their own artwork. Will they be able to be taken and used as tokens for those that play online? That is a very good question. We have a digital token add-on right now. It was unlocked as a stretch goal. It's also part of the I Want It All pledge level. So let's see, what do we have left? We have 9 minutes left. So if you haven't added it on now, you can add it on in Backer Kit. But yes, we have a token set, and a token set exists if you want to play online.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's I might go in and right now they are sized to be printable, so they will print at 1:1 scale. If like medium-sized monsters will print 1 inch, large to huge, 3 inches, so on and so forth. I might go in and take the time to make that an SVG file so that it can be you can actually like print it out and cut it out yourself. Or, if you have a printer cardboard cutter combo, like you can just print those, have your own nice little tokens.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's busy work on my side, but like, that is something I could go in and do. And so Yeah. Got another, I guess not question, but James Johnson. So I take it, I want it all gets everything?
So James, this has come up a few times. It gets everything except one thing because it was something that we, in order to make the margins make sense and have it actually look and feel right. The only thing that I Want It All does not get is the card deck, because we're the vendor that we're using for to print the cards and everything. It just didn't make sense. We eat our hat, and so I think that this stupid hat, but it includes
It's a
everything else.
delicious,
Delicious
hat.
Other stuff. Oh, delicious hat. So yeah, James, everything except that card deck. If you add that card deck on, and again, you can do that in the pledge manager, you'll have that. Oh, you added it earlier? High five. Good job. Go you. All right. Excellent. So James, you're good to go. I will say the company that we're using to make the cards is the same company that printed the the Never Going Home card deck. It's got the linen finish and everything. Charlie actually designed these cards as well, and all of the things. One of my favorite parts about them is, let me get to him. He did all like custom new artwork for all of the face cards, for all of the suits, for this. But what he's doing for Into the Weird and Wild is it's a monster deck. It's a resource that you could have and put on your tabletop. So instead of just like playing cards, which are actually usable in Never Going Home, they're going to be resources that GM can like slide over to someone without them having to flip through a book or say, hey, pass me the book, I want to know what this monster's doing or what this monster looks like. The GM can just like toss the card over to you like Gambit.
Yeah. It's also like, so the plan is for those, what it'll be is one side will have just like the image on it, and then the other side's going to have like stats and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's in part like also because I don't use, like, whenever I play, like, I tend not to do like too much with like the, like setting up like the map and anything like that. It's all very theater of the mind. But I do like the idea of at least like having one little visual resource of like, this is at least what it looks like or something like that. And then on top of that, like, it's got, quick little information on the back of what it does just for, GM's sake. And then, of course, a picture for the player's sake. So
because art.
Oh yeah, that too. I mean, I'll spreading my art as many things as I possibly can. But also fun thing about the I don't know if it's necessarily a fun story about the card deck is when I'd say you, but I guess it was all we went to Gen Con, and it was like so neat, like looking at all the stuff, like, wow, look, there's the book and there's the deck of cards and there's the dice. And I think I was offered, like, oh yeah, do you want the copy? I was like, no. I'll wait until like, I'll wait till everybody's like picked through them, and then like the last day I'll take them. And then I think it ran out in the second day. Like
they all ran out in the second day.
The
like,
last day.
Yeah,
you came back and like they're gone. And by the way, I should just mail you a deck of cards. Like, why not? Like, duh. One thing that absolutely floored me about that Gen Con is we had a guy from Artist Alley, or he was a vendor. He wasn't an artist. But he came up and was like, yeah, hey, I want to buy this bundle. This stuff looks awesome. And we're like, we don't have any left. We have our demo copy. And he's like, cool, I'll see you Sunday after they close the exhibit hall and I'll buy your demo copy. And we were like, so we didn't even we sold the demo set of Never Going Home. Kyle Osberg is giving you grief, Charlie. What? An artist wants to promote his art?
Yes, I do. Ethically, and while remaining morally, keeping moral high ground with certain things.
Hey,
but like,
you can be a shill for a minute, Charlie. It's fine.
Well, okay, I will say this, like, I very much understand that I do, like, it's, unfortunately a byproduct of various economic moves and all that. But like, I understand that like I do have to make compromises with like art in regards to it's like I have to like there is a business side of things. And I'm firmly aware of that, and I always try to make the like I said, ethically sound choice with those, stuff that's going to help me sleep at night. But there is also, where's I going with this? Which kind of goes back to like why, like I like working with people that I know. Is that it's not like I'm, it's not like McDonald's is like, paying me like $1,000 to like do some sort of ad campaign that like in the bottom of my heart I know is like I shouldn't be doing this. Like instead it's like my friend who says like hey, I have this very cool idea, and it's I have this very cool idea, and I think this would be really cool. And it's like, yeah, that does sound cool. Do you want some art for that? And it's like, I didn't ask. And it's like, well, I'm offering, so
yeah, but you like art for that.
Yes, that's actually that's how I that's how I parasite my way into various products. Is just saying like, hey, do you want some art? And it's like, well, we didn't ask for art. We were just going to use old assets online. And like, it's like, no. I think you want some illustrations.
Speaking of assets online, Charlie, I know you and Alex from Feral Indie have done stock art volumes recently. So can you tell me a little bit about that and like what kind of success that you've all have had with that? And
it kind of started with so that's both something that we're going to continue to do. But it's basically, it kind of happened with like, there is a trend with various like RPG products, especially with zines and stuff, where it sucks, it's true, that art sells it, like, or at the very least, art brings eyes to it. And so, but like that being said, like it's expensive to hire an illustrator. Like I get that. So with that, like I kind of started making these, I started making these like art packs for like, they're $25 each. You get 20 illustrations with them, of like, some damn good art that you can like use in your stuff. So it's like, if you have a good idea, like just, $25, and now all of a sudden you technically have a professional illustrator working for you. Although it is, you're limited by what you get and all that. And I keep forgetting to promote this, and like, but I will be actually making an art pack of the Into the Weird and Wild black and white artwork. So that'll also be $25, but it'll have like significantly more illustrations in it. I think that'll probably end up being like about 100 illustrations now that I think about it. But like, once we're done with this, like, that art will be part of an art pack too. Just because like first off, I like seeing my artwork and things, but also like if you want good art, like I can help you with that.
Yeah, I think it's great. Alex has done.
itch.io is pretty good for that kind of stuff, as far as I understand. There's a lot of people doing that.
I love itch. Like,
I need to go in. I just over quarantine and everything, really dove into Patreon a little bit, supporting people
25, 24.
Oh,
yeah. Seconds. We gotta watch it live.
1, 20. 19. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but
no, this is what we're here for.
Hold on. Let's see.
All right. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Oh, look,
2.
we got fireworks.
There it is. Yay! And even 2,600 people.
All right.
Hey.
That was. Yeah.
Crept up on us, but yeah.
All around, guys.
Yay. Well. Now for the hard part.
Thank you all you backers, all you who are watching this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. So real quick, I'm gonna follow this up with the burning question in a second, Charlie. But yeah, the stuff that you've been doing, and Alex, I know she's done, she's done she contributed art to Into the Weird and Wild a little bit, and she's done some great stuff from character design, and stuff for some of her art packs, which are phenomenal. She did some of the character designs for our partnership with Bloat Games, the Dark Places and Demogorgons, which will be picking back up here very shortly. But I love looking at the art, that the stuff that she's been doing, especially recently. She's not only stepping up her game, but just releasing some really cool stuff. So anyway,
she has she's better than me, we'll put it that way. Yeah, I mean, because like that was the thing, is like when we first met, like back in college, like right now she's kind of shifted over to doing a lot more like watercolor work, but she was doing like fully rendered like oil paintings.
Yeah.
Like that's where she came from. And
well, I remember when I met her through you, just in conversation, and I reached out to her and I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to see your portfolio. And she sent me her initial portfolio, and I was like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. You're one of those.
Yeah, no, she's very good. And yeah, I could not, like, it's great working with her, and now we're housemates, which is also very cool. I mean, not right now, she's off visiting family away from me, but no, but yeah, I could not pick. Also, Feral Indie Studio technically started as like a weird little joke, where it was just kind of, God, I can't remember. Somehow, the phrase feral indie artists, and like, oh, that would be kind of a fun name for like a studio or a band or something. And then like I just kind of made the logo for a joke, and we still use it. And
it works,
yeah,
it's solid.
Yeah, and like now, like yeah, we're just making stuff, like lots of stuff. And she's also contributing. She's probably going to be contributing like a lion's share of the artwork for the next book coming up. I'm trying to get as much of my art in it as I possibly can, but like I have to do like the typing and layout. So like yeah, she's like doing a lion's share of the artwork, and it's looking real good.
Real quick, we have a question from Delirium. Could you possibly give a time frame when the PDF is expected to roll out? We just have a few revisions to make to the PDF itself, and make sure that when we put it on drive-through, we can get the front cover, back cover treatment, all that stuff. Very minor things, and then we just need to get it approved by drive-through. What we're gonna do is once we can get the full list of backers and everything from Kickstarter, and it feeds into BackerKit, we're just going to export that list. I'll drop it into DriveThruRPG and mail it out to everybody. So from a time frame standpoint, maybe a week or 2 weeks. Very soon, very, very soon. That should not be a huge hindrance. Some of the other technical things, once it goes into BackerKit, we're not going to keep it open for a tremendously long period of time, mostly because we want to get it delivered, and we want to solidify our numbers. Our physical print copies, because we're getting into distribution, we're going to have a huge volume. We want to make sure we know what we have to send to Quartermaster Logistics to send into to all of the backers. But we have the decals ready, the GM screen is ready to send to print. So we have a number of to-do items which have already been checked off. Charlie, you've been just absolutely crushing it recently, getting some of these knocked out. And so, yeah, we're making sure we can get all of these in print, and we're using various vendors, so a lot of this can be done concurrently. We're not waiting on like, okay, well, we have to do this, and then we can do the other sticker, and then we can do the art print, and then we can do the GM screen. No, it's just we're gonna make all of those orders. I actually have them, like all of them, up in different tabs. Because are you really living life if you don't have 25 tabs up in your browser?
If I can if I can figure it out to share the screen, which I'm not sure if I know how to do that.
I think I have to allow it. Hold on one second.
Oh, okay. Because I have the book files open, and it's it's
Let me.
Look at that, 248 pages.
Here we go. You should be able to share now.
Yeah, okay, let me. God, how do I do this? It's not record. It's not stop video. Video settings.
It should be right in the middle. It says share screen.
Oh,
No?
there it is. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So we're just gonna share this real quick.
Yeah.
The only really, I guess, like technically on my site, 3 things I need to add in. You need to add the ISBN number in the front.
Mm-hmm.
There's one little thing that I decided to add was these sketches in the beginning of the chapter pages, just so they're not like blank. That was something I should have fixed in the beginning, but I didn't think to. So, yeah, it's just something extra fun to add. It makes it look a little nicer, and it's fun sketches. And then, of course, right in the back, for those of you watching, there's a big old page where I'm going to try to cram at least as many of the 2,000 names that are going to go onto it as I possibly can.
Oh, man.
So, apologies ahead of time if your name doesn't make it in, or it is so tiny that it's almost illegible, but I'm going to do my best.
Like, Charlie, that's brave.
You're going to need 3 pages at least. Come on, just add 3 pages in there.
I mean, if we hadn't already put the quote in, we could strap on another 8 pages, but that's not
gonna. So actually, this is funny. We're looking at this screen. Your little hex map up here, for some of our hunt. Oh, that was another thing. Our hunt generator has been. We've been talking back and forth with the designer of the hunt generator and everything. So that's already in the works and fantastic stuff.
It is already up. So his name's David Sheridan. Go check him out at technicalgrimoire.com. He has done a generator for Into the Weird and Wild, along with the Stygian library, which was released by Jelly Muppet Games, I believe. Sorry, I know the names of the people, but I don't know. I'm trying to remember the company, but Stygian Library is amazing. He's done a bunch of other generators for his own games. Great designer, great guy, fantastic. Technicalgrimoire.com. Go check it out.
And the updated version of that, I think he said he wants to have it knocked out this weekend. And he could have some other things that he's wanting to do, but so that'll be great. Let's see. Oh, so what I was saying, like your little hex map. It was funny because the vendor that we had. Oh gosh, let me pull this up real quick. This is gonna be a plug for another company that's not us. But the company that we're using to print, they print all kinds of different size cards, big giant cards, tarot cards, whatever you want. But they also had hexagonal cards. And so that was where I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be really cool to be able to use, like, to just make a whole bunch of them and to be able to throw them out there and say, now we've made this, this dungeon deck, this hunt deck or whatever. And this company, what company is this? This is Roland Kuntz. They did the Dungenerator deck, and this was kind of like an inspiration for it, which, obviously every card is a different dungeon thing, and they have different icons as to hey, you could find a treasure here and different adventure hooks and stuff. It was just such a cool idea. And when they launched their Kickstarter, I was like, again, like many other things, I want to support people who are doing
please take
really
my money.
fun things. So, what was that, Matt?
I said, please take my money.
Please take my money. Right. But again, I want to support other people who are doing really cool things. And so I bought a couple of those decks, and it's funny because like this company, the guy came up with it and his brother did all the artwork for it. And so I was like, that's cool. Like they were just like, yeah, my brother did all the maps and did all these little goblins and creatures, and it was fun. Yeah. All right. Oh, Grix Alamar says he only has 16 tabs open. You gotta work on that, buddy.
What am I up to? Jeez, I'm up to like 20 or something like that. Like, look, I don't know. In my mind, I think less tabs is better because it just shows a less cluttered mind, a less cluttered table. And I'm just put it this way: I'm glad that the camera is pointing this way, not at my desk currently.
I have 19 open right now.
I have 7 open, which for me is unusual. Like I have like 4 max. I got 7 now. Like this is you mentioned earlier the IGDN. Like that's taken up a lot of tabs.
I bet
It's we're right in the thick of planning, registering our events for Gen Con. So I'm going to take over the stream, and I'm going to talk about the IGDN as one of the leadership team of the IGDN. I'm taking over here. The IGDN is the Indie Game Developers Network, and we are everybody who's an indie publisher of role-playing games, board games. We've got a miniatures game that the designer is doing. One of our members is a miniatures game, so all kinds of tabletop and stuff. We've even got an app developer, and then we've got some other members who are like media people, editors, that kind of thing, who find like being part of the consortium to their benefit. And the idea is to help people break into the industry, because it's a hard industry to break into, and help people break out within the industry, get famous, get noticed. So that's our goals. That's our twin goal. And yeah, like Brandon mentioned earlier, like Wedding Games is a member of, I think we individually are each members of it, the IGDN. And yeah, I've got a leadership role this year on the leadership team doing conventions. So let me tell you, in a year where this was not a normal year in the last like 14 months, and like now, like, okay, so we're having to register events. Like there's all kinds of safety stuff to learn about, being in a room with 20,000 people, which I've never had to learn before. We're trying to sell product, get people registered, trying to find volunteers, like to run games, people who are, willing to take an increased risk. Even if you're vaccinated, you're meeting, there's risk involved in going to a con always, and it's even more so this year. So yeah, I've been doing all of that kind of work for the IGDN. It's mostly background stuff, and then come September, Gen Con is September 16th through 19th this year. I'll be there at the booth. So if you're one of the few who are going, one of the somewhat fewer number of people who are going to Gen Con,
at the booth.
You'll be there at the booth. Amazing. I'll be there at the booth, and you can say hi to us. And we'll have Wedding Games product there. Probably this game we've been talking about, Into Weird and Wild. There'll probably be copies for sale.
There 100% will be
amazing products from the other members of the IGDN. I don't know. Definitely Capers has signed on. We got some stuff from, like I'm saying, the miniatures game Fraggin' Empire. They'll probably be there. Not Fraggin' Empire, Fraggin' Unicorn. There's a Fraggin' Empire game, I think, but Fraggin' Unicorn.
Fragged Empire is
Fragged Empire is a game. Fraggin' Unicorn is a company that has a miniatures game called Gangs of Undercity, which is like cyberpunk mecha, not mecha, but like magic stuff, Magitech cyberpunk
Oh, okay.
combat miniatures game. They'll be there somewhere. It'll be fun.
You
So,
mentioned
anyway, that's why I have lots of tabs open, because
you mentioned
there's lots of things to
Capers
manage.
by Craig Campbell, which, by the
I
way,
did.
Capers is awesome. If you haven't checked it out,
Absolutely.
Craig is a great designer.
Wyrd Burger Games.
And Capers is a great game, but I would be remiss to mention if I, he's got a campaign going on right now for a game called Nowhereville.
Oh yeah.
Which, I mean, Nowhereville is it's really cool. It's like
it's the small town you can't leave.
It's a small town you can't leave.
Yeah.
When he first told me about it, like
town.
it definitely got like In the Mouth of Madness feels, kind of like.
Oh yeah, that's
small town you can't leave.
The small town. You can't leave.
Check it out. It's on Kickstarter for I think another week or so. But it's really cool. He's a great guy and a great designer all around. Yeah. Do any of the other IGDN designers have anything going on right now? Mitchell Wallace has Necrobiotic going on right now.
Yes, she does.
Which is a Florence, Italy that has human population has gone down, so humanity is using technology to bring the dead back to life in order to like bring you your smoothie and stuff like that. But Mitchell's also really great, good voice in the industry, cool product, art's really gorgeous.
Necrobiotic has 14 more days, and it is funded, so you can.
Yep, Necrobiotic's got.
Not a gamble.
Oh, yeah, that's hold on. Okay, so I don't follow Mitchell, but I think okay, I remember Keegan made a post about it.
We got a bunch of congratulations from a bunch of people, but also Night Fairy Titiana says, "Can we see the GM screen live tonight?" Okay, so real quick, we're gonna do two things. I'm gonna show you the one that I have up here on the shelf, and then we'll share a screen and show you the one where the changes are gonna be, because there are some various things that are going to be changed. And yes, we'll also show you some of the art prints, because that was another thing that one of our backers wanted to see. So GM screen, this is the one that had been printed previously. All right. The Woods Do Not Care For You. Here's the art. You can see these tables here on the side. All right. So you can see how this kind of comes up. We have this arc here. This, I think, was made by GameCrafter.
That was GameCrafter. I'm looking at it now, and I completely forgot how dark that gray printed, and I apologize to everyone.
It's not terrible. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, this is definitely a functionally usable GM screen. Hold on one second. And this is the comparison that we use with our Never Going Home screens that we included in the in our update. But again, it's always better to see it live rather than, still pictures of my dumb face. So this was our Never Going Home screen. Again, also by GameCrafter. You got the single arc here. See the colors. All right. And for Never Going Home, we didn't change the format or anything. However, when we redid it, we used another company, and you can see this is definitely glossy. This is heavier. This is pretty matte, not as glossy. And again, you can see the contour up here. So when it's folded, it all comes together, as opposed to this. When it's folded, you see how it goes straight across. So it's right here at the top. It's very minor things. And the Game Crafter product is great. You know, they're also huge proponents of the indie scene and indie developers. I love a lot of the stuff that they do. We just wanted something that was maybe a little, you know, a little brighter, a little bolder. We just tried out another vendor once, and we really liked what they did. So let me pull this up. And no, Charlie.
While you pull it up, I'm gonna butt in and correct myself. I misgendered Mitchell earlier. For some reason, Mitchell's a girl's name in my mind, apparently, but he's a he. I'm just gonna correct myself.
That's awesome. I appreciate you making that correction.
I think I can pull it up. I will say.
Do you have it? Do you want to pull it up and share it, Charlie?
Yes. So, because I actually.
If you have it up, I have to dig for it.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, forgot that it is. Oh, there we go. Just click that. Okay, let me just give it a white background real quick because currently it is set at. We'll call it range. Send to move back. So yeah, let me just show a picture of what it looks like and kind of explain some of the changes that I made to it.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so one of the big changes, I believe the last one, it had like very, most of it was like devoted to like the hunt rules within that.
Right.
The hunting rules are still in there, but like it's just like the kind of condensed version up in the, where is that? The bottom left. And it doesn't have like the list of like all the various things that happen during the hunt, because in my mind, it's a little more important to have like the, basically, like for lack of a term, the improv sheet in the middle, which has what does the woods look like, type of woods, a random trail, and the smells and sounds that you encounter there. Which, like, I feel like that's in my, like, at least when I use these GM screens, like that's the important thing that like I prefer to have like right in front of me, of just like things I can go to like describe to the players what it looks like, rather than charts of things related to something mechanical. So that's why that takes up like the big main middle of like, you know, you can just look at it and you can either roll or you can just pull directly from that to describe the scene. But then in addition to that, it also has like the short list condensed rules of like exhaustion, surviving the night, hunting, cleaning a body, and of course becoming lost. So it's, I believe it has all the same information there. Well, it has pretty much like everything you need for running into the Weird and Wild in a condensed version. Yeah. So.
Well, I think that's the thing that I think you added, you know, the whole like, you know, cleaning a body, becoming lost, and everything. And I love the fact that you also included all of that information right there in the center panel. That's the sensory stuff. I love that stuff because, you know, like when you know, I've played with people who have been, they were in improv troops, and so they're super into being able to think of stuff like that on the fly. I'm not great, and I'll hear myself like in hindsight, and I'm like, man, I should have added this other thing. I should have added this, like what it smelled like in the room. There needed to be like some other setting pieces. I love that's like right there in on the GM screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing that I can show is the new encounter table. So let me just find that. One thing, I apologize, this is more to you, Brandon and Matt.
No,
the like super like kind of like early version that like just had like pretty much everything that it needed in it, that we like kind of showed off around to people. The pages for the encounter table, they were the correct page. It was just that the table was covering up the number. So like there was a swath of like, you'll see these like charts here. This entire swath here of like a good 10 pages had no numbers under them. So so that was one thing I fixed during the editing phase, was made sure that at least the right hand side numbers were visible, so you could at least like track it down.
Right.
But yeah, so here's the biggest new fun thing that added to this is it's a 50 possible encounters. No, they are not scaled per level because I don't believe in that. But also it includes for each monster, it's got a mood. It's how is it feeling? How does it react to you? Because a lot of the time, and this is my own personal philosophy, is like a lot of the time you don't have to kill a monster when you bump into it, or an animal, or a person. Sometimes they're just kind of doing their own thing, and usually if they're attacking you, they're angry or they're hungry.
Ugh, that's such a good point, because when we use this in our, we use this in a 5e game, and we encountered these strange oxen creatures that would produce various musical effects through their horns, and so we were like, yeah, and my druid understood, like, okay, well, let's chill out. And something startled them, and we were like, oh no. And it was real bad. It got real, like it was the closest that we'd gotten to like a TPK, because we were like, we scared a herd of cows, and we were like, it was like we didn't have to encounter them. We could have just walked away, but I don't even remember exactly how it happened, but we were like, so
I think it was our impetuous gnome child wanted to go make friends with them.
Oh, it was our impetuous gnome child. Who I'm hanging out with on Saturday, by the way. Nope. Hold on one second.
Yeah, it was. We had just come out of a major dungeon that I can't remember if we had to sweet talk our way past a witch or something. We got some information from a witch, and then went to like a bog where we fought like a giant frog monster, and then entered the dungeon beneath the pond. And we went through the whole dungeon, and we fought the big bad of the dungeon, and I don't even remember who that was. And then we like leave the dungeon with our like, minor item or whatever piece of MacGuffin that we got from the dungeon. And then we're on our way back to our like wagon where we left it when we fought the frog monster.
And it was surrounded
before we fought the frog monster, and all like dove to the bottom of the lake. And it was like, oh, you encounter some cows, and we almost died. Like all of that dungeon stuff, no problem. Cows,
no problem. Herd of cows, y'all are dumb.
I mean, that's the beauty of like the wilderness. Like, in my opinion, that's the beauty of a wilderness. We'll call it dungeon, of like that. It is wildly unpredictable, but also at the same time not out for your blood all the time. Like sometimes just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. It's fine. Like,
yeah, sometimes it just wants to eat and be left alone. It wants to crawl into its little cave. Like, leave it alone.
Yeah, right. Which I'm very glad that I play with of course I play with Alex and my partner and two other very close friends. But like I love the philosophy in it where like I will present a monster to them, and like if it sounds scary enough, they'll just like look at each other. It's like, yeah, we're not messing with that. Let's get out of here. And I'm very much a proponent of like sometimes just leave it alone. Just leave it alone and run away. Like,
so I actually like run a game for some middle schoolers locally, and one of the things that I have found, like, these kids are drastically different than I was in middle school, because they're like, we just did this dungeon, and there was like this mummy lord, and like the entire time going through the dungeon, they were like, no, I'm not touching that. No, I'm not messing with that. Like they were like, they did everything.
Got the whole adventure done in one night.
Well, they were like, don't get me wrong, like they were all playing in character. They were doing everything that they needed to do, and they were spot on, because like, it gets to the thing. It's like, if you've done X, Y, and Z, then like terrible stuff happens, and like they had not done any of that. They were like, no, they're. Like, we're not messing. Whereas me in middle school, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go fight some zombies, like, and mummies. Like, why not? These kids were never.
A whole nother level. They're far more like, far less. God, what's
the kids are all right.
Yeah, kids are all right. Kids are all right.
So I know we're coming to the tail end of our time. The one thing I do want to show, I know that we had a question about some of our art prints, and so we wanted to show off some of those art prints for our backers. So Charlie, if you don't mind going and sharing the screen again, what was it? It's the Curse Wild, the Return to the Wild. Oh, and the what was the third?
The original, like,
Yeah.
Into the Weird. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and pull it up on the book. Oh,
let's show
and-
those three pieces. And again, those will be on a pretty heavy stock. And so you'll all be able to frame them, and if you wanted to, you could put them in a triptych or whatever. But they all look great. We picked we went through and we discussed it on our offline chat about like which ones we wanted to really showcase, which really gave the feel of Into the Weird and Wild. So
all right. So just the one is like 60 megabytes, so it's taking a little bit to load right now. Let me just open up the third one, and of course the scariest tree I've ever painted in my entire life.
It's so good.
There it is. There we go. And while we're showing this off, I can a question popped in by Frozen Solstice.
Oh,
Screen.
yeah. Since Into the Weird and Wild is system neutral, how would you integrate some creatures and monsters from the book into D&D to stat blocks?
So if we're talking 5th edition, there's a nice little primer in the back of the monster manual. It's either the monster manual or the DM's guide that kind of goes into like how monsters are made. But and like you can just kind of like sort through there of like it's going to have a strong strength, weak wisdom, and you can go down and break it through that. Typically for me, I tend to just run the monsters as if they are fighters of an equal level in hit dice. So if it's got 14 hit dice, it's going to hit as hard as a 14th level fighter. It's going to have stats that are comparable to a 15th level fighter. So like, I guess in 5th edition, it would have like probably like, 18, 20 strength, 16 to 18 charisma, and then everything else is just dump stats. But anyway, okay, so spooky tree, and let's go over to where is the other? Okay, all right, so there was spooky tree. Let me screen share the next one.
Okay. One of the things I also want to talk about is, and how would you integrate some of those creatures and monsters into D&D? One of the things that will also that's also included in there is as Charlie said, that primer's there to kind of walk you through that. But we had that question at least a couple times on some of our earlier like interviews and discussions about it, and it was like, when it comes to like magic and when it comes to some of these abilities, and if you've played an OSR game or you've played 5e, like you have a gut check as to, if I have to do a dex save, is that dex save going to be, a 10? Is that dex save going to be a 15? Is that dex save going to be a 13? Like, that if this is a higher level creature and you're doing this thing as a mid-level boss or something like that, and you're having a check and it's not, if it doesn't feel right, like you have that idea of where that's supposed to land, just based on the gravity of the encounter.
Yeah, I would unfortunately I could go into like game design about like it's like what would the roles be and all that, but I do not have the time for that. Also, I need to head to bed because I have to be up at 6 a.m. and I'm already starting to get bags under the eyes. So,
yeah, I think it's been a good show. I think we should shut it down. So
I think it's good.
Thanks for
Yeah.
To all our watchers, thanks Charlie for coming on. Thanks Doug for being here earlier.
Yeah, thanks
Brandon, for setting it all up.
yeah, thanks
Yep.
for putting all this together. And yeah, like I think we'll just, it's a nice little picture to leave it on of the
Yeah, we do have a couple more questions. I'll stay on for a minute or two, and I'll try to answer these. If you guys want to drop, that's fine. But I'm
Let Charlie say goodnight, but I'll stay on.
Oh
with you.
yeah.
okay.
Okay. Hey. First off, thanks for letting me on. Like, thank you, Wedding Games. Thank you, everybody. Everybody who has contributed. This is baffling to me in the best way. This book was a passion project, start to finish, and yeah, I'm just really happy to be here. I'm really tired right now, but I promise I'm very happy. All right. Good night, y'all. Stay safe, and hopefully I'll see you two soon.
You
at some
will.
point. And hopefully I'll see you backers at some point. But yes. All right. Good night.
All right. Thanks, Charlie. So we have the question. Also, can the digital tokens be used on Roll20? I'm new to Roll20. Yeah, I think on Roll20 you can import your own. You can import your own tokens and everything. So that's it's not out of the question for those to be used. Grixomar says, is there a possibility of a Skull and Roots logo shirt being made for sale? There's always a possibility. There's always a possibility. There's no plans at this moment, but I like logo t-shirts. I love the idea of having like shirts made with Charlie's art because, I mean, he's gone, right? We can talk about him. His art's really good, right? We don't want him to get a big head while he's here.
You could still be watching the stream. You don't know.
But yeah, I mean, maybe there's a possibility. Again, when it comes to some of that stuff, we've talked about working with. There's a number of excellent companies that work with indie designers, indie creators, and indie RPG companies that want to put out cool tactile products like t-shirts and hoodies and stuff like that. But even stuff like TeePublic, which is, any indie designer can use it. And one of our local like organized play groups, Lurking Fears, actually uses TeePublic to. They put up their designs there, and any of their members, they just go out and say, yes, I want to take this design and I want to put it on a hoodie, or I want to take it and I want to put it on a face mask or a bag or whatever stuff that they do. And each creator gets a portion of that, and it reduces the overhead because each of those creators doesn't necessarily have to have a stock room full of 200 t-shirts, so it's cool. Maybe that's something in the cards. Whether it's that logo, which is really cool, or something else, we don't know. Let's see. What's this other one? Christoph says, I'm mainly playing Symbaroum, a Norwegian dark fantasy RPG that has different mechanics for stats and HP. Is it compatible with it? If you thought about it, how is it system neutral? That's a really good question, Christoph. I'm not familiar with Symbaroum beyond the fact that it's a Modifius product. I don't know if it's Modifius's 2D20 system, but if you have a feel for, in your setting, whether something is a low, medium, or high level antagonist and what that feels like in your setting, then it should be able to translate pretty easily. Strength or dexterity or something like that is a physical stat. Intelligent wisdom is a mental stat. So you can tie it to whatever the appropriate association would be in your game. Symbaroum, by the way, is one that I definitely want to check out. I feel like it came out around the same time, or maybe even it was a precursor to Vaesen, and Vaesen is another one that I want to get to the table. Like, too many games, not enough time.
A lot of games. I thought I had something about Sabarum. I was looking for a file to look at I think I have some character sheets from actual play, so I was going to see what kind of stats they look like. But yeah, I don't know that system either. But
okay, he says it is D20. So I know from if it is Modiphius, is kind of like 2D20. I know Matt has run their Star Trek Adventures game, which by the way is awesome. Like I don't know, when I didn't know how to feel about it going into it, because I was like, as someone who grew up watching like every Star Trek thing I could get my hands on, like I was like, oh, I don't know how it's going to translate, but it really did feel like Star Trek. So I like the 2D20 system. I like the 2D20 system. It feels good.
So like, to answer the question about how the system neutral idea works, is that the names aren't the names of the stuff is like, for example, some of the attacks that the monsters have are described as things like you have to save versus crushing if this creature rams you. So like, is that constitution? Is that some sort of fortitude roll?
Or a toughness check or something?
Right, a toughness check. Whatever makes sense in your system, the attacks are described that way. All the attacks are described that way. You have to save versus
stress or
right. Yeah. They're all described in these sort of neutral terms that are not copyrighted to any particular. It doesn't say make a constitution save. It doesn't say, whatever the check would be. What you have to kind of match it up, and that's how it's not that it's system neutral. It's maybe agnostic is a term that I've heard also, where it's like it doesn't favor any particular system in its terminology. You kind of have to look and see what's the best fit for each of the creature's attacks in the system you're using. So that conversion can happen easier to something like Dungeons and Dragons because it's closer to that, but the ideas and the concepts are translatable into basically any mechanics. It just may take a little bit more work on the part of the DM.
And
or narrator or whatever.
And I always there's always the ease of leaning into OSR or 5e because, like, sure, it's in the zeitgeist, or even like second edition D&D, which is what I like. Early on, and like that was my first experience with D&D. I could look at that and be like, oh yeah, this is definitely a fighter with an 18 strength or something like that. I can always think like that. However, one of the things that I also take a look at is from our hold on one second. One of the things that I always think about is our Never Going Home system. And our Wild Skies, which Never Going Home uses our homegrown +1 system, and Wild Skies uses our Compass system, which is one is derivative of the other slightly. But I can look at that because we have a mental stat, we have a physical stat, and we have we have our will or our guts stat, or just resilience. So even as a designer of drastically different system than 5e and from Dungeons and Dragons, I can still look at this book and say, oh yeah, I can, sure, that's something with a brawn of 6. I can see that and drop it into Never Going Home if I really wanted to.
Right, like yeah.
Ooh, yeah. This is another good question. TJ Schaefer. You mentioned Never Going Home earlier. Since I've missed the pre-order and Kickstarter, where can I go to purchase it? TJ, it's a great question. Never Going Home. You can purchase that if you really want to. You can go to Drive-Thru RPG and you can get it on PDF, or you can get it in print on demand. If you want to get our offset copies that we have and the ones that we shipped out to our backers, you can go to Indie Press Revolution and you can order directly from them. Indie Press Revolution has that and they'll ship it out right away. Ta-da!
Or you can go to your friendly local game store and ask them to order it from IPR.
That you could do that. Let's see. Free League is making a 5e version of Symbaroum, so I think it will translate. I think I backed the 5e version of Symbaroum because, you know, that's just the kind of guy I am.
It's that dead tree form, man. Like that
Dead
whole
tree
bookshelf.
format. How many forests can I cut down? It's okay. It's all right. I keep telling myself.
As many as you want until they're all gone.
No, I have this much space. That's not true. These books are leaning. I can shove them in there. Christoph says, think about that. What's about Free League. Thing in Symbaroum 5e is it created a world in 5e. It's not the Symbaroum system at all anymore. You know, that's something that is always a complaint. You know, I hear that a lot. You know, a lot of people say, you know, I don't want to play 5e. You know, then there's a lot of people who say I want to see what else 5e can do. As a designer, you know, I like what 5e does, and what it does well. It really does well. Like, if you want to get into like tactical combat and stuff like that on dudes on a map, fine, you can get into dudes on a map in 5e. And there's also places where it lacks, you know. But one of the things I really think that you can. One of the things I like is looking at indie creators who are using the OGL to do cool new things with 5e. I talked about Neverland earlier. Cloud Age. I picked up Cloud Age 5e back in 2019, and you know, it's, you know, I think it's Flash Gordon. You know,
Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of, you know, space pulpy comic book stuff, and that's cool. I want to be able to see what other people are doing with 5e and stretching the boundaries. And there have been some really cool 5e products that have been coming out about like really hard sci-fi, or you know, we talked about Humblewood earlier. There's just some really cool things. So you can sit there and say, like, I want to play 5e, but I don't want to play in Forgotten Realms, or I don't want to play in Eberron. Like, I don't want to play a fantasy game. I want to be on I want to play effectively Mass Effect, but I want to play it on my tabletop. Like, so I think there's some cool things that you can see. And as a gamer, if the system gets in the way of people telling a story, then I think it's doing something wrong. And I don't necessarily think that's a problem with that 5e is really encountering. I think that comes from a lot of players who that's all they know. And when that happens and they say, well, I can't do that because I can only move 30 feet per move action. And I'm like, hold on. You can do whatever you want because the story tells you can. So I think, you know, there always comes you always have these limitations that you can kind of overcome. I don't know.
Yeah, you're dispensing wisdom here in not exactly an organized fashion, but that's fine. It's getting late.
It is getting late.
We should close this down and record. We should record some content for our YouTube channel in which you pontificate on like the things that you've just described.
Yeah. I will gladly do that in the future.
Sure. Do we have any, I think we should close it down. You think anything final thoughts that you want to say about Wedding Games? Should we do our socials and then say goodnight?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us obviously here on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, all at Wedding Games.
At all of those places.
Yep, Wedding Games at all of those places. You can also find us at weddinggames.com. And
we
so
have
any of
Discord,
that,
which
in our Discord,
go to any of those places and ask us for a Discord link. We'll get it to you so that you can join our Discord.
Yep.
We try and keep it. We try and do like it's a little more laid back. Instagram is sort of more formal, and like Facebook's a great place for questions. But Discord is where like you can get really into the chat, kind of live chatting type stuff, ask questions, hear advice from other people who play wedding games, and we'll also do like news and updates and stuff there. So those are all the places that you can get more.
I also want to say a big hearty thank you to, I know we've said it before, we'll say it again. Wedding Games would not be in the position that it's in without the support of our backers. We have people who've backed us ever since we did Wild Skies and have backed every project since. We've had people who have stood by our side through thick and thin, and we absolutely love you guys. So thank you so much for all of your support, and we look forward to not only delivering more great products to you that you've just backed, but also some other things in the future that we hope that you will love as much, if not more. So we constantly try to improve and to do right by you, our supporters, and our backers. So thank you. All right. And good night.
And good night. Thank you. Good night.
All right.